Greetings. You're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the UK's biggest paranormal network. I'm David Young, and this is Paranormal Dimensions. Now, on this show, I'm going to make no apologies. I've got a very good friend on the line here, John Hanson. In my mind, he's probably one of the UK's best UFO researchers. He's responsible for writing the Haunted Skies books, which is like a history of the UFO books. And well, really, I should let him get on and tell you all about that. So, hello, John Hanson.
Good afternoon to you, David. How are you doing? All right?
I'm fine, mate.
Finished cropping those trees?
Yeah. I've been trying not to fall off my ladder again, like I did the other.
Well, that's good. I mean, I actually just contacted the local village magazine here because they did a article on, well, UFOs. They've done some on me before, to be fair, but the last one was about 6 months ago, and it was a number of strange lights seen over a locality about 6 or 7 miles from here. And you know, the usual thing, the usual skeptical stuff about it, and pee taking, and aliens are invading, and I felt that was that needed a rebuttal. Although I can't, as our friend Charles Holt would say, I can't say where these things are from or what they are, but the evidence is indisputable. From so many people that have seen so many things going back so many years now. You know,
it's like the Middle Ages and even further back, isn't it? It goes, if you really want to take it that far.
Well, this is true. I remember every now and then there's a surge or a wave of procrastination by enthusiasts that are interested in UFOs, and obviously try and convince me that triangular UFOs, which of course came to light in the 1980s, the famous Belgium wave, try and tell me that it's a covert top secret aircraft. Yeah. Well, all I can say is that first of all, I cannot prove or disprove, but what I can prove is that identical things that have been seen, going back to the 13th and 14th century. And in my opinion, you can't explain them away under a myriad of explanations as people offer. They weren't bolides or fireballs or meteorites, and the term UFO wasn't known then. But I'm convinced that if there was an internet a few hundred years ago, we would be absolutely weighted under with the amount of sightings that clearly, well, most of them would have been UFOs because you couldn't even fly.
Sure. But all they had to do to record them then was just manuscripts and things, wasn't it? So it's or maybe cave drawings even.
Well, cave drawings. You're right. Our friend, somebody was telling me. Actually, somebody was chatting to me about Von Daniken the other day, and I said that we'd met up with him, and he'd kindly given endorsement to the books. I think after some. I won't say pressure from you, David. I would say perseverance is the word. You very kindly, got in touch with him again. And this is the thing. You see, I do say to a lot of people, that I don't make any money out of this. I wish I did. Oh, I'd be the first.
No, I know. You've told me several.
Yeah, but I put it down to the fact that, unfortunately, we live in an age where people, when I say people, I mean that small, that small group of enthusiasts, because it is a small group comparison to the general public. The general public have got their own preconceived, if you like, misconceptions about UFOs, but within our small encampment, if you like, there is a problem in my opinion, because so many people, they either believe in black or white, which we discussed before about whether they're alien spaceships or not, or covert, top secret technological craft. I just don't know. But all I've sought to do, and now seeing so many of these guys pass away, and not only the witnesses, but UFO researchers like Omar Fowler, what a smashing bloke he was. People like him and people like Dennis Plunkett, Margaret Westwood, and others, so many others. I feel that I have to, at least to the best of my ability, produce a record of not only what the witnesses have seen, but the achievements made by those very important researchers. So that's what I'm doing it for. And certainly, if I did something like that for money and fame, I'd be sat on my yacht. But unfortunately, I'm not, and I don't hold that against what I do, because I find it fascinating. And I think I mentioned to you an ex-counsellor came the other day, and she spoke to me about something she witnessed and was warned and threatened, which is all part of the territory, or it was part of the territory. I don't think it happens so much now, but yeah, that's where I'm coming from, and I'm buggered if I remember what your question was to me now.
it was really just, I suppose we ought to go back to the beginning, to how you really got into it and started deciding to write books. I guess it's probably the best way to start.
Well, it is. The strange thing is that when I retired from the police force in 1995, my son was still in the force. Well, he just joined up actually as a special. And as I say, when I retired, I used to, believe it or not, I've got a metal detector. I used to like to go out metal detecting. I used to like to go out and dig. Used to like to go to Victorian tips as well, because that fascinates me, delving through history.
Oh yeah.
And the amount of stuff that the Victorians chucked away. I mean, these tips are not easy to get to now, but I can assure you that they are. They're exciting because you never know what you're going to find. And I used to dig up bottles, enjoyed that. And then, as I say, my son was directed to. He was he was a special to begin with, but in '95 he was a police constable of just a few months' experience, and he was directed to a report on the 16th, or it could have been the 19th of January, 1995. I think it was the 19th. And at 6:40 p.m. and following a number of reports of things over the Birmingham city centre, he went to a place called Moseley and interviewed a doctor, drove a short distance away, and him and the policewoman saw this elliptical object hovering over some trees with a blue field around it and a red glow in the centre, and a bit like, as I said to him, a cheeseburger. But he could not believe that he was seeing this. And to be honest, at that point in time, I regarded such reports as ridiculous. It's odd, isn't it, that it takes something like that, a trigger, to open one's eyes. And prior to that, as far as I was concerned, it's now that it was the 21st century. But I suppose the annoying part about it is that children, UFOs aren't on the curriculum, but children don't have an idea about what has gone on. And I'm reiterating, I don't know what these things are, and I don't know where they come from. But it does form part of our history, part of our culture. But it
comes as a bit of it comes as a bit of a shock when you find you're on the other side of you're one of the crazies then, aren't you? When you suddenly find that you're the one that believes in the UFOs or ghosts or whatever it is that you come across, you become on the other side basically. You get people taking the pee out of you, don't you?
Well, you do, but you can't get away from the fact that so many people have seen these things, and that predominantly there's familiarity between so many sightings, going back to the early 1940s, where a number of witnesses will describe seeing three lights in the sky. Three lights form in a triangle, but one of the lights will shoot off. Now, to me, that negates the fact that it could have been some covert, top-secret aircraft back in the early 40s, or something the Germans have got. But
yeah, you've got.
Go on, sorry.
I was going to say, you've got to give that possibility a chance.
It may well be, but it cannot fit all the cases. You see, it can't, no. And that's an insult, to all of these witnesses. I mean, oddly enough, in front of me, I've got. I mean, this guy's long gone, David Proctor, but he was a friend of Roy Lake's. And both, I think Roy's retired from it now. He lives in Barking in Essex, but there's something from him from London UFO Studies, and he says, and this is probably 74, I can't see the date here, probably 74, 75, and he's saying, we note the lack of serious attention paid to the subject in much of the media, and note with some alarm the amount of time the subject is used simply to fill a space, or else simply to poke fun in our general direction. London UFO Studies are determined to prove to all interested parties that UFOs per se are real and not figments of a fevered imagination, nor hoaxes. The general public, such as they are, have a right to know what is above them in the skies. But of course, the general public is not told about any of this, really, are they? No. I mean, but as I say, going back to the thing with
only if they want a sensational story to take the Mickey out of, usually. Well,
we've seen that, haven't we? With so much to do with Colonel Holt. So many people, and without specifically, I'm not going to name individuals. It would be I don't feel today's the right time, but people have made such preposterous stories and have come forward.
Absolutely,
40 years. Well, it's 40 years later, not
got
far
away with hell. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and the thing is, Colonel Holt was deputy base commander at the base, and he's never heard of these people. So that never stops happening. But of course, as I found out with the Holt perspective, they were not interested in the media was not interested in serious research or that book at all. And what they concentrated on was wild stories. But of course, it's so disappointing for me that if you looked at something, I don't know, you could say a million cuttings. Obviously, there wouldn't be a million cuttings about UFOs, but out of those million cuttings, you can bet your bottom dollar that 99% of those cuttings would be taking the proverbial P out of the UFO witnesses, out of the UFO researchers. And you have to ask yourself a question: why? Why is this being allowed to happen? I mean, I just don't understand it. I mean, you yourself probably feel that this phenomena, it should be given far more. It should be treated far more seriously. But then I suppose, I'm not defending that fact, but maybe people would be frightened or worried. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, all I know is the one that I saw in '67, which to me was not anything that was of this earth. It was a big orange object going across the sky, and there was just nothing around at that time that could explain it. It was completely silent. I've told you about it a couple of times. And then I found out that it's quite a common occurrence, these big orange elliptical. I didn't know it at the time, but I started seeing a lot of reports, and a lot of reports were orange. It could have been. I mean, it was an oval object for the shape that I saw, but it could well have been. An oval object. It was like an egg shape type of object. it could well have been a saucer shape on an angle. It
Well,
was hard
that's
for me
right.
to
That's
tell.
right. You
But
just you just mentioned something.
I can't explain what it was, and it wasn't like a bright light. It was like an incandescent orange. So
Well, you just hit the nail on the head there. But the fact that from a different angle, either from the witness's perspective, or the way that it moves and rotates and whatever, you can get different shapes to it. But
well, it could look flat or it could look round, couldn't it? If you got something that's like that, it's. And I suppose even if it's it might not even be a roundish object anyway. It could have other appendages depending on whatever angle it's at.
Well, I'm going to say to you, because this sounds pretty crazy, but I wonder if whatever these things are, I mean, there might be a natural phenomenon. There might be another type of indigenous species that actually that picks up on electromagnetic waves. How do you know it doesn't even pick up on human beings? I don't know.
Well, it's like I've said on other shows. I mean, this is why I called this show. I've said it a few times now. People get fed up hearing it. The paranormal dimensions. I always think that maybe some of these things do come through different dimensions as well. They're not just all extraterrestrial. I don't know what your view is on that, John. I mean, that.
Well, I used to believe originally that there was a vast difference between the paranormal and the UFO phenomena, and there could be, but certainly enough I've witnessed, like yourself, some very strange things in Rendlesham Forest. So because they're on the ground, are they paranormal? But because they fly across the sky, are they UFO or flying saucers or whatever you want to call them? But because paranormal means out of the normal. Well, the trouble is, you get involved as much as I've done with this stuff. You wonder what is the normal and what is out of the normal. Just so many thousands of sightings of strange objects, but in the main, so much has been lost from our history. So that's as I say, that's what I'm trying to do. But it is an incredible subject, and again, I suppose probably I refer to Rendlesham because I probably got more. It takes me 10 times longer to do a book like The Whole Perspective 2 than it would do on a normal book, because with a normal book it's fairly straightforward. Obviously, some research has to be conducted into it, but with the Rendlesham stuff, it's so. I know that the press regard it as Britain's Roswell, but and they seem to ignore everything else. But to be fair, there is so much stuff involved with the Rendlesham case, and well, only recently we discussed a situation where somebody had done some superficial research and wanted to publish something on it. And didn't contact Colonel Holt, and the matter was brought to the attention of Colonel Holt, who then contacted me and said he'd hoped to advise the gentleman accordingly, but it appears nothing was going to change. So in other words, it was going to be another slice of the Rendlesham pie put before people so they could decide whether it was that good old lighthouse or whether it was a UFO, whatever the hell a UFO is. So
from somebody nobody's ever heard of.
Well, but how many times has that happened? Maybe people think people do think it's an opportunity to make a fast buck, because they don't realise that so many people out there have heard the same old story, and don't mean to be derogatory, but it isn't just about what happened over those few nights. I mean, I found quite a number of new witnesses, because you can't get away from the fact that if you've got a witness who describes seeing something similar or not similar in the case to what was seen at Rendlesham, Well, then that's corroboration. It's corroboration
Yes.
of the fact that somebody else has seen something, and it's important you put that down. And as we've seen, if you take all this corroboration out, if you take other accounts out, if you take this and that, as we saw at the BBC One when we did the walk in the forest there with the BBC, if you take all of this out, well, you've got really bugger all, haven't you? You've just got that you're back to the same old hot potato stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and then people unfortunately don't realise just how much has gone on. And I mean, what I've done with this book, I've provided a timeline of because it would be impossible to put what I want to do in the next Holt perspective, but I've invited Chuck to give various comments about specific cases, which he has done before we get up to, I think, part 2 would be the 1980 period, the new witnesses, and then part 3 would be the rebuttals, of which you and I haven't even got there yet, although I've got the information.
And there's going to be a lot of that.
Well, there is going to be a lot of that. Yeah.
At this point, John, I feel I ought to jump in because there's going to be people out there listening that we ought to talk about the Holt perspective, which is the book you wrote with Chuck, Colonel Holt.
Yeah.
And sort of where did that actual start? Because what I'll do when I on my Facebook page, I've got the Paranormal Dimensions page. I will actually put links to all these books and that on there.
Well, don't ask me where it all started.
No, I understand. Well, I suppose we ought to explain that Colonel Holt wanted to write his own story.
Well, Colonel Holt, in fact, in 1989, Colonel Holt wrote to what's his name. He was going to do a book with, you'll know the name, Barry Green. What's his name?
I can't.
No, you
offhand. I can't either.
Yeah, I can't. I'm even been in touch with the bloke. Barry and Fawcett, wasn't it?
Greenwood. Barry Greenwood.
Barry Greenwood, yeah, and the other guy, and.
I didn't want to say Greenwood in case I got it wrong, but as you were saying it, I thought that does sound about right, because they were the ones that from the News of the World article.
That's right. Well, Chuck wasn't too happy with that, with the involvement of certain people, and accordingly, in I think 1989, he asked to be relieved of the legal responsibility of writing a book with them, because I have his email here somewhere, and so that never cracked off. And I just wish, in a way, that the book, what I've done, I've shot myself in the foot, right? Because I only make a couple of pounds a book, because I naively thought, well, I would still do it. I wanted to provide as much information and as many pages and as many coloured illustrations for the reader, because I thought that was...
Well, I can guarantee you succeeded in that, because we're talking about getting on for 900 pages, aren't we?
Well, yeah, you're right, and I think 1,000 images, but then you think, you sit back and you don't think, oh wow, I'm going to make a load of money, because I don't do it for that. But what I do expect is to get something back. But of course, with publishing, there's two ways of doing it. You can either do what my esteemed colleague does, Phil Mantle, and he uploads it straight through to Amazon, so they'll convert the Microsoft Word document to a PDF, and then that's the way he goes. Well, and he does an excellent job. But I suppose I'm a little bit old-fashioned, because there are so many images and because there's so much a depth to it. I like to get it typeset, because then I can see it as it goes along. But of course, typesetting costs something like £1.20 or 30 pence a page. So you just mentioned 900 pages.
Yeah, you're talking about quite a bit.
You're talking about £1,000 before it goes anywhere. Then there's the cost of registering it. There's also other costs involved, and then the book probably makes probably £3 or £4, if that, a book. So you need a hell of a lot of books. And of course, I am mindful of the fact that Chuck is a co-author. So in the past, I have given him some money when I can, but it clearly it's. I mean, somebody the other day suggested I contact a publisher and ask them to republish the whole perspective, because a big mainstream publisher would make a lot of money, probably for themselves, not for me. But it's easier said than done. I mean,
if your name's on it, John, you should get some royalties out of it. So
well, yes, but I don't want to hark back to the early days where I lost 6 volumes because, and I know other guys in our business, Malcolm and Phil and others have had problems, shall we say,
previous
and I had a big problem because it wasn't the fact that 6 books were taken off, and I've redone those 6 books in 4 revised volumes, and I haven't even got a copy of the revised volume 4 yet, but I did that. But of course the 6 books were lost. Well, it wasn't just 6 books that were lost. It was 6 books. It was nearly £3,000 plus travelling backwards and forwards for 2 years and petrol.
Yeah, all that research.
Yeah. So you're talking about a lot of money. So I've lost a lot of money, and I'm understanding.
Well, not only it's all that time as well, isn't it? Time, money, everything.
You're right, and yes, and suffice to say, I ended up taking that guy to court and getting him a CCJ, but I should have gone to a higher court and got a lot more money back. But I know some people would say, well, what's done is done. Well, it is done, but it still irks one, and you know where I'm coming from there, because those are 6 books. And again, as you just said, 6 books gone, 4 books have to be redone in colour, twice as much work. So that again has cost time and money.
Yeah.
And the annoying part is that I cannot get it. I can't get them marketed. You see, I can't get them marketed out there. In all the time I've been doing this, the only thing I've ever had international was the Betty Turpin, Betty Driver Coronation Street lady, because I was friendly with her and her sister Frida. Frida was the paranormal one, if you like, the psychic one. So that's the only thing I've ever had. And when the first book, volume 1, came about in 2010, was it, or something? Well, God, that's 8 years ago. I foolishly contacted all the nationals, and they all asked for a book.
Right, it costed even more money. Yeah.
It did, yeah. So I'm reluctant. Only recently I've had some very charming representatives of the press contact me and enter into all manner of conversation, very enthusiastic about getting me on the BBC radio stations. But they want the books now. Again, a whole, if you like, the whole book, as we call it. That costs me something like about 29-30 quid. I mean, I know it's up for 35. Bearing in mind I have to split that with Chuck the profits, but I'm saying that people they don't want to buy the books. But
well, when you think about the effort that's gone into that job, and you're going to get sort of like 3 quid out of it.
Well, massive, absolutely massive. Well,
per copy, it's
but it's not only the whole book, the Wiltshire book. You see, I used to go. 1996, I went backwards and forwards to Wiltshire, Silbury Hill, Avebury, Stonehenge, interviewed hundreds of people, and have all their accounts written chronologically in the Wiltshire book, and nobody buys the Wiltshire book at all, which is so strange. And
I did.
Well, yeah,
I don't even live in Wiltshire.
No, I'm saying generally that I don't understand.
No,
I can't understand it, because these books should really. I mean, as you said, the amount of work I've spent, nights on Silbury Hill, I've interviewed. These things coming in my head. Man-Made Man, which was a group there. They were on the hill, and this triangular object came down. Colin Andrews was very helpful, and Busty Taylor, and Maria Wheatley. The list goes on, and even Reg Presley, and yet it's I don't know what one has to do, but of course I couldn't get any press attention at all on the book. I can't. I just can't get it. Nobody's interested.
I know, it's crazy.
It's
it's almost like a vendetta, isn't it, against you?
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's not. You tell me.
I won't call it. Yeah, maybe not a vendetta, but I don't know. Maybe you've got men in black that keep an eye on you, and you're getting too much information out that they don't like.
Well, it's sometimes I'm mindful of the fact that it's a bit like, I mean, because you're pretty well versed in the subject, and you're a very sensible bloke, a very helpful man, and as I say, you're well respected. And unfortunately, you once
maybe not by everybody.
That's all right. I don't want to borrow any money off you. Not yet, anyway. But what I'm saying is, we've got to be brutally honest here. There's quite a few people in this business that, well, how can I say,
they're only in it for the money. I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Not firing on all four cylinders, as they say.
Yeah, and there's that as well.
Yeah, and there's that as well. You're right. But that's the trouble is the press love it, because what I can never understand is that if you were a journalist, it wouldn't matter whether you were a journalist reporter in the 60s. You mentioned about 67 or 67, where there was a huge wave of what was referred to as the Flying Cross, not only in England but in the States. And I interviewed most of the major witnesses from the 67 period. I tracked them all down, and sadly, many of them have passed away. But that was a fascinating time, and of course, you know, anything like that got into the press could be explained away as Mars or Venus or whatever, and clearly wasn't. But there was some amazing stuff. But
well, it's strange because, like you say, 67. That's when I saw my orange oval object going across the sky. It wasn't a cross; it was an orange oval. So
yeah. But all you want to do, like so many others, you actually need an answer, and the very fact that the answers aren't forthcoming, and that generally speaking the subject isn't treated with any seriousness, indicates that something is afoot here. Something is happening, or whatever these things are. The authorities are not anxious for it to be known about generally. That's fair enough. And what happens is, as the years go by, people's accounts disappear, they sink into the oblivion of history. You know, the Second World War sightings, the 77 wave.
There's loads. Yeah.
So you know, it's just. I mean, look at Milton Torres 57, the May 57, because some of these sightings. Well, I was saying earlier, I've done it against a backcloth of timeline. Now the reader's going to have a bloody good eyesight, because the timeline has got to be reduced to size 8 font. It's a bit like I don't know, if you hung some magnificent painting on your you know, on the side of your wall, you know, you'd look at the painting, you wouldn't look at the back so much, but the backcloth or the timeline provides the reader with the information supporting that particular case. So if you talk about the Milton Torres United States Air Force pilot in May 57, that was ordered to intercept a UFO, and with a few seconds or 10 seconds or something, he was ordered to fire, to discharge his rockets at this UFO over civilian territory. But that is one of probably hundreds of incidents like that, and
sure, yeah.
You know, so people, in my opinion, people want to know what happened on the 21st of May and what happened on the 1st of May. So that's what I've done. But unfortunately, I have had to discontinue the timeline, I think, between 73 and 72 to 76, because the book gets too big, you see. And as you go up,
they've been getting gradually bigger, I know.
Well, the other problem, we've discussed this before, is that, and I mean, you're in agreement with me, that the next book should go out, or that any books that go out should be in black and white and colour. give the reader the option, because many people clearly. I go back to what I said before. You see, because people don't know me, they don't, and they don't know about the books. They're not prepared to spend, as David Bryant would say, an evening's money, 25 quid or something, on a book, and I understand that, but I'm banging my head against a brick wall because I can't get the books marketed. And anyway, the books aren't about me. They're about,
no, of course they're not.
No, they're about so many guys.
They're just your sweat and blood, aren't they?
Well, yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh dear. I'm sorry. I'm just.
I threw you off there, didn't I? Sorry.
No, I was just gonna. No, I was just thinking about your dogs. Actually, I don't know what
right.
Jodie and Bobby are.
Bobby and Jodie, yeah.
Bobby and Jodie, yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if you just heard it, but I was sitting here looking out the window, and an Apache helicopter's just flown over.
Oh no!
I don't know if the mic picked it up, but I put my hand over the mic to try and stop it.
You might have had too much for lunch or something. I wasn't going to say anything. But
no, they do fly quite low over here, so.
Oh right. Well,
over to the base.
You live in Saxey. And
which is not far from the bases.
That's right. But yeah, I suppose I should think of something else to say. I mean, I could spend the next 2 days.
I mean, how many volumes? You've got 11 volumes of Haunted Skies books now, haven't you? You've redone the first 4 volumes. Now, are you stopping at the first four volumes, or are you going to go do a revised 5?
The revised, what I want to do, I've got most of the stuff here. I'd like to start volume 12, which is 1993.
Yeah.
I've said before that 1993 and 1994 would be one probably 800-page book. 1995 would be one book. Therein lies the problem. 96, 97, 98, 99. I am not going past the year 2000. I refuse to, because these things take an enormous amount of time. If only perhaps people think you can just chuck some text in, whack a picture in. But I mean, with the whole perspective too that I'm working on at the moment, it's like, okay, with each comment by Chuck, what I've done, I've put a picture of Chuck in, or I've picked one of his citations, because when during the various intervals of his career, at various places, not just Bentwaters, he's been regarded with great affection by the guys that work under him, and he's got a whole side of the
fan club.
Well, yeah, you know what I'm saying. He's so many citations and awards, which tells you one thing about the guy, that he was well loved by the guys that he worked with, and I mean, you know what he's like. He's quietly spoken, though, isn't he? He is quiet, and he's a bit introvert, but by God, he knows. Well, he knows about the.
I have so much respect for that man. It's
you're right. I mean, he's treated me.
Apart from liking him, I like him as well. I mean, to actually respect and like somebody, it's well, it's quite rare nowadays, I think.
It is, yeah, and yes. What as I say, we said what he said about him. He's been very helpful. I've seen him as offering, if you like, the facility through his book or through our book, what do you want to call it, the idea was, and that it would sell more books because of his name and who he is. But we both know that it's, unfortunately, people that buy UFO books are more turned on by garish stories of aliens and abductions and all sorts of strange and weird things, and of course those things are there, but people in the main try and capitalize through the publication of a book by putting often the biggest load of rubbish I've ever read in my life, but that sometimes people seem to like that.
they're so embellished sometimes, aren't they? I mean, really, most reports are quite mundane, aren't they? You know, and quite repetitive, a lot of them. But it's the comparison between those reports that you've got to look at
Well,
to see the, you know.
But you're right. I remember interviewing a guy, to do with the 73 Berwyn Mountains incident, and Margaret Fry was involved in that with, can't remember his name now, can't remember them all. But been to see Margaret quite a few times, and clearly what you had there was the evidence of the nurse and her two daughters of something resting on the hillside. But over the years, it's been built up to all manner of strange phenomena. But I interviewed a bloke, and I was very careful during the interview. Basically, this chap said that he was on his way home with a number of other men and stopped by the side of the mountain to have a pee or something, whatever they stopped for. And then this thing appeared. And dropped.
This is a family show, John.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, pee.
No,
There's nothing wrong having a pee. Now, this guy had the temerity to actually try and convince me, and this is all documented, is the fact that a flatbed lorry driven by the army turned up, and a guy got out, and when they picked up the UFO, the flying saucer, and put it on the back of the trailer. And just before they drove off, they remembered they hadn't picked up the occupant. So they whistled. And as good as gold, the alien came out of the bushes and got into the truck with them and off the sailed into the sunset down the motorway. Now, if you believe all that, it's a family show.
Yeah.
If you believe all that, well, then you need to book yourself into some psychiatric ward. I'm sorry, but that's bull. But people have exploited that story. They've made money out of it, and that is sadly how it all goes in this business.
Yeah, and also like you say, I mean, don't get us wrong out there. I mean, you and I believe in aliens, don't we?
Oh yeah,
they're not an everyday occurrence that sort of drop down for a pee round the corner.
Well, I'm sure they have to.
Well, probably, yeah, maybe. But you think that everyone on the UFO, wouldn't you?
Yeah, do you know, I always remember Gordon Creighton said to me, I had an amusing conversation with Gordon Creighton from editor of Flying Saucer Review. I went to see him years ago, and sadly he passed away. But he said to me, I was telling him something I was a bit amusing, and he said, "My boy," he said, "what are you doing laughing?" He said, "This is not a humorous subject, John. You should know better." And he gave me such a lambasting with his tongue. And yeah, I agree, it's not a humorous subject, but if you need a sense of humor in this job to counteract the hostility, don't you?
Oh yes, and we've seen quite a bit of that over the last few years.
Well, you've seen more share than I have, but yeah. But as I say, I've met some lovely people over the years. So have you, and including.
Oh yeah.
We talk about. I mean, a lot of people. We know about the aliens at Rendlesham without going into that.
Well, the ones that didn't land. You mean?
The ones that didn't land, but there were. You used to talk about the paranormal, but Mr. Jolly and Brenda Butler told me this story originally. Mr. Jolly was the guy that was out in the forest killing the rabbits, and near the weapons storage area. I actually, it's weapons storage, not weapons support area, isn't it? Weapons.
Yeah, storage
WSA,
area. Yeah, that's right. WSA.
And he saw these. He thought they were children, and they were moving through the forest but floating. And he was quite frightened, but he stopped to observe them. And they were moving. He used to look like little brown monks moving about with cowls on them. And then after they'd left, there was a sticky residue on the ground. And he contacted the base, and they sent some guys, and they took samples of this and then then told him he was not to do any more. He was to keep out of that area, which he did. And I mentioned this to Chuck, and Chuck said, "Well, I knew Mr. Jolly," he said, "but I don't know about that particular story now. So whether he does or is not telling, I don't know. But so, and I've no doubt that, because he said Mr. Jolly was a very genuine guy, and I've met a lot of genuine people that have seen aliens, which takes me back to when I first got involved in all of this. I could settle for strange objects, cigar-shaped objects, rotating things, flying saucers, you name whatever they like, flying about. But of course, the very suggestion or inference that they had occupants was ridiculous. I was not prepared to accept it. And yet I can't explain how many times, and some of them have been police officers, where they've seen what appears to be small figures moving around the craft while it's on the ground. And I have many reports of that, and from so many members of the public, police officers, and even pilots. So you've got to ask yourself, what's up? And I don't know. I just don't know. But they are, as we said, you know, there are no doubt some very genuine incidents involving you know, incursions by these, if you like to call them, machines with occupants, and then interaction with human beings. It's happened so many times, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I should interject at this point, because there's probably people out there that don't know that you yourself were you're ex-CID, weren't you? So you had a respected job when you didn't believe in UFOs at the time. But in your retirement is when you've discovered UFOs, basically, isn't it?
Well, yeah, when that single trigger, and if you like, the members of public, the witnesses, the believers, they are the people that have had something happen to them, or which has provided the necessary trigger to, you know, to create this interest and a passion for the subject. And you've met a lot of those witnesses, the same as myself, and basically they all, some of them have been threatened. I'm sure that doesn't happen now, but some of them have been threatened, and you know, that is the trigger. And I suppose if I hadn't had the thing that triggered off my interest, I would have, well, I wouldn't be talking to you now, would I? Not unless we were going to discuss, we could be discussing dogs or horses or something. And then, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's so strange. And we mentioned earlier that these things have been with us for, well, I think these things have been with us for thousands of years, and I am fully convinced that they will be here long after we've gone, and surely to God, before the human race is rendered inoperable on this world, somebody will have told us what these things are, because
this makes you wonder if one day we will all know, and it'll be like a common thing that there are people out there, and we all travel around the universe and we all know each other and everything. It just makes you wonder what the future does hold for the planet and other life forms out there. You know,
you're right, and sometimes probably like yourself, for me, the world is a big place, but is it a big place in comparison?
Well, it's got a lot smaller over the last sort of 30 years. Well,
it has, but
with the internet and everything else, I mean, we can now just chat with people like we're doing now on Skype, and
true.
Right across the other side of the planet. It's so easy now to be passing information on.
But
and I think,
go on, sorry.
As I say, I think that's been a big downfall of some people who come out with all these tales that like the internet has been their big downfall, because things are so easy to just Google now to find out different facts or the real facts, aren't they?
How do you discern that? That is a problem. It's like I was talking with somebody the other day, and I know that knife crime has been a major thing at the moment, but I would imagine that knife crime has always been something of a major concern, but it's utilised at this particular time, maybe to take the heat off Brexit. That's how I feel, because I haven't got a bloody clue what's going on with Brexit, and neither of you. But every now and then something crops up and is nurtured. And I'm not saying knife crime is not a serious thing. Of course, it's a serious thing, and a lot of people have lost their lives. But if you went on to, I don't know, if you went on to New Zealand or Australia or other places, looked up knife crime and murders and God knows what, there'd be so much there that you wouldn't know about, but you could know about because it's available to know about. But years ago, we wouldn't have known, would we?
No, that's right. There's a lot of it. I mean, in the old days of the Teddy Boys, there was so much violence and stuff around back in the 50s, wasn't there, with stuff like that?
Right. Were you a Teddy Boy?
No, I was a Teddy Boy.
No,
Thank you.
Get that one, and then we're friends.
I'm a little bit too young, John.
Oh, were you?
Probably just a little bit too young. Yeah. I was in the Mods and Rockers. I was involved in that a little bit. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to admit to me at this stage of time?
No. I mean, I was a bit of I'd use the old Ringo Starr say. I was a bit of a mocker. I was a bit of in between.
Oh, were you?
Sometimes I was a mod, and sometimes I was a rocker. But anyway, we digress.
Sorry?
But we digress a little bit.
Yeah, but digressing is a good thing, because digressing is what friendship is all about. And we've known each other for some time now and trust each other, and it's great that I can chat to you, because it's very rare that I have the opportunity to talk to other people about a subject that I am passionate, not obsessed, passionate about. And of course, over the years, I've done a lot of podcasts, and for me, the BBC One show, that was a bit.
The radio, the one show. That's right, the one show. Yeah. When we spent all day in the forest, and it was freezing cold, and they showed about 5 minutes.
And you didn't get paid for carrying.
No. Well, I didn't want to get paid, John. That's what I wasn't there for that. Neither did you.
Tripod or machine gun? I'm sorry.
It was a tripod, John. It wasn't.
Well, it was.
I'd have liked it to have been a Gatling gun.
No, it reminded me of a Gatling gun, but it
was heavy enough, I tell you.
I brought all the files down with me to.
I know you did,
all those files, because there was.
You're talking about that. I will put a few of these pictures up on the
put whatever you like.
Facebook page.
I mean, that's the thing, you see.
I've got quite a collection of those.
People will argue till the cows come home about that bloody lighthouse, whatever it is. And yes, I know it's all done and dusted now, but people will start arguing about when you try and tell them, well, look, hang on a minute. And Chuck himself did say the other day, in response to what we spoke about earlier, the fact that there were a lot of civilian witnesses that saw things there as well over the years. And of course, not just 1980, 1981 as well, because he was there till 1984, if my memory serves.
Well, on top of that, John, you've got the radar evidence as well, haven't you?
Well, I have additional evidence from a friend of David Bryant's, but Gary Baker stuff, so that's the thing, isn't it? They deliberately lied, and they deliberately didn't want the truth to come out. But the truths are what? That's the problem. The truth. I don't know what the truth is, but it's in my opinion.
Well, even Chuck, like you say, even Chuck doesn't know what the truth is, does he? He can only say what he saw, and theorise as to what he might have seen. But
no, that
there you go.
Say that.
I mean,
go on.
I'm gonna use a little word here that you being an ex-CID man, I'm gonna use somebody else's rendition here that you know what evidence is. And you know where that came from.
Oh, yeah, it's true. It's all right. I was just I speak
Sorry, I
to,
threw you up a
no,
bit,
I
but,
speak to a lady yesterday that her father was a guy called Taft Thomas, detective constable at same place where I began my
I remember that
career,
name,
and it just made me laugh because in those days before custody blocks, I can remember one detective constable who was quite short in stature. I mean, a lot shorter than me, and that's saying something. But he used to have to stand on a chair to interview the teenage suspect, who was about 6'4".
No. Yeah.
He used to stand
I
on the
thought you had to be. I thought you had to be a certain height to be a policeman, John, didn't you?
Well, the old Birmingham was 5'9" Birmingham, but I
Was
did.
it?
Do you know? I tried for the Met actually. Went down to the Met, and it was the Elephant and Cut. There was something at the police place, the recruitment centre near the Elephant and Castle. Something you don't forget. And that was like 1965. That was Christ, and. I remember staying there. I had to stay the night, you see, and or I didn't get any sleep because all I heard was the London police officers moving in and out, shouting and screaming in a drunken state. And can you imagine to like a 20-year-old kid from the sticks? You know, never experienced anything like it. But of course, the height was like 5'11", so that was. I got turned away the next day, but I never forgot the Elephant and Castle. Yeah, but of course the London area is well. You've been. I know you recently were going to try and get down to London to have a go with. I talked to Theresa May, I think, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
well,
but
you and I. Yeah, but will she still be there?
Well,
I mean, I was raised in London, you know.
Oh,
I was born and raised in London,
yeah.
in the East End, yeah. Yeah, I moved to Essex when I was 15. So I left all my friends behind, and well, anyway, this show's not about me, but I'm just saying I was born and raised in the East End, so I know what London was like
I
back then.
disagree with you when you say the show's not about you. The show is actually about us, and it's about UFOs can encompass so much more. And we talked about UFOs, the paranormal, even people that have alleged they've been abducted, but the association between historical sites of interest, late lines, energy lines, and UFOs is all part of that mix. And without this massive number of witnesses, and they had the courage to come forward over the years, which they have, we'd be worse off. I like yourself. I've met some very nice people in this business, and also met the opposite ones.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it was kind of funny how we kind of got. I don't want to use the word thrown together, but it was the Woodbridge conference, wasn't it, for Colonel Holt? And there was a picture that was taken off of a wall, and I think it got signed, and there was a I think there was a wrong person named for it. It was somebody with the same name. And I think that's kind of how we got involved together, wasn't it? And
I tell you, the guy.
We've sort of been good mates ever since.
That's right. No, it was a guy called Ross, but the wrong Ross came.
I know. Because it was a bloke sitting next to me, and he showed me this picture, and I said, "Where'd you get that from?" And he said, "I got it over there." And I thought they were being handed out to be signed, you know, as stupid as I am. And but no, then I later learned off of you that it had been nicked.
Well, that's right. I hope to see it on Facebook or something, but sorry, on eBay.
On eBay, yeah.
But that was, and you know, we won't go over old ground, but there was very strange things did happen at the 2015. I nearly said concert.
Conference, yeah.
But those things will not happen again in the conference that we, and mostly you, have put together in September, because they won't be allowed to happen. But there are all sorts of strange things. I'm not going into them, but
well, we haven't really got time. We've got about a minute left.
Oh, that's okay. Well, no, that time goes fast.
But I'll tell you what, John. I mean, I'd like you to come back on again in maybe a month or a couple of months' time.
Well, I'd like to
talk
be
about the Holt books.
Please invite me regularly, and if regularly. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's two friends talking about a subject that's very special to them. And at the end of the day, you've done your homework and I've done mine. And I just
well, you've done a lot more than I have. I'm going to admit that freely. I mean,
well,
but, it's just a pleasure for me to be able to talk to people like yourself and call you a friend. You know,
vice
it's,
versa. You're putting us up soon, aren't you?
yeah. We said in June, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
anyway, Joe, I've got to have to kind of wind it up
good
there.
To speak to you, David. Okay.
As I say, I will put all these, your links to your books on the Paranormal Dimensions site on Facebook,
thanks,
if you want to come and find me.
And regards to to Jill, your wife.
Thank you very much, John.
She's a lovely woman. And,
no doubt I'll be speaking to you very soon, and I'm afraid I've got to leave it there. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Mate, and thank you.
Thanks, John. Goodbye, John. Thank you.
Bye.
And I hope you enjoyed the show. And,
absolutely
I will get.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to the audience, John, but never mind.
That's right. Oh, David.
But anyway, you will be back. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye bye.